The rain hammered against the windows of the small apartment in Portland, Oregon, creating a rhythmic percussion that filled the silence of the November evening. Sophia Bennett sat cross-legged on the worn leather couch, her laptop balanced precariously on her knees, scrolling through job listings with diminishing enthusiasm. At 24, she had imagined her life would look different by now, perhaps more stable, more certain. Instead, she found herself working part-time at a local bookstore while her graphic design portfolio gathered digital dust. Travis Keller emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, water still glistening on his shoulders. He'd been living with Sophia for 8 months now, having moved into her one-bedroom apartment in the Pearl District after what he called a rough patch with his previous living situation. At 28, Travis worked remotely as a software developer for a tech startup, which meant he spent most days in the apartment, headphones on, typing away at code Sophia didn't understand. "You're still up?" Travis asked, running his fingers through his wet, dark hair. His voice carried that familiar tone of casual concern that had initially drawn Sophia to him, the sense that he genuinely cared about her well-being. "Can't sleep," Sophia replied, closing her laptop with a soft click. "Too much caffeine, I think. How was your shower?" "Needed it, long day." Travis walked to the kitchenette, opening the refrigerator and staring at its contents with the blank expression of someone not actually looking for anything specific. The blue light illuminated his face, casting shadows that made his features seem sharper, more angular than usual. Sophia watched him, noting the tension in his shoulders. Travis had been different lately, more withdrawn, more secretive about his work. He'd started locking his laptop whenever he left the room, even if just to use the bathroom. He'd also begun staying up later, sometimes working until 3 or 4 in the morning, the glow of his screen visible beneath their bedroom door. "Everything okay with work?" she ventured, pulling a blanket over her legs. Travis closed the refrigerator without taking anything. "Yeah, just a demanding project. Security protocols, encryption stuff, boring technical details." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "You wouldn't be interested." That phrase had become increasingly common. "You wouldn't be interested." It was a gentle dismissal, a way of creating distance while maintaining the appearance of intimacy. Sophia had begun to notice these small erasures, the way Travis slowly carved out spaces in their relationship where she wasn't welcome. "Try me," she said, attempting to bridge the growing gap between them. Travis glanced at his laptop, which sat closed on the small dining table near the window. "Maybe another time, I'm exhausted." He disappeared into the bedroom, leaving Sophia alone with the sound of rain and her growing unease. The truth was, Sophia had been feeling this unease for weeks now. It started small. Travis forgetting plans they'd made, being vague about where he'd been during the day, receiving phone calls he'd step outside to take even in the pouring rain. She'd tried to rationalize it, telling herself that relationships naturally evolved, that the intensity of the first few months couldn't last forever, but there were other things, stranger things. She'd found searches on their shared tablet for how to permanently delete files and encrypted storage solutions. She'd noticed him watching her while she slept, or at least she thought she had, waking to find him sitting on the edge of the bed in the darkness just looking at her. When she'd ask what he was doing, he'd say he couldn't sleep, that he was just admiring her. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt predatory. Sophia opened her laptop again, not to look at job listings, but to browse through her photos, images of happier times with Travis. Their first date at Powell's City of Books, where they'd spent 3 hours getting lost among the shelves. The weekend trip to Cannon Beach, where they'd watched the sunset over Haystack Rock. The Halloween party where they'd dressed as characters from her favorite video game. When had things started to change? She tried to pinpoint the exact moment, but it was like trying to identify when water begins to boil, a gradual process that suddenly becomes undeniable. Her phone buzzed, a text from her best friend, Maya Chen. "Coffee tomorrow. Feel like I haven't seen you in forever." Sophia realized with a start that she hadn't seen Maya in over a month. Travis had suggested she was spending too much time with friends, that they should focus on building their relationship. It had seemed reasonable at the time, even flattering. He wanted to prioritize their time together. Now, isolated in their apartment with rain streaking the windows, it felt different. It felt calculated. She texted back, "Yes, 10 a.m. at Stumptown?" "Perfect. Miss you." Sophia set her phone down and stared at the closed bedroom door. Through it, she could hear Travis moving around, the familiar sounds of him preparing for bed. In 8 months, she'd learned his routines, his habits, the way he always checked his phone one last time before plugging it in to charge, the way he'd crack his knuckles before finally settling under the covers. But how much did she really know him? She knew he'd grown up in Seattle, that his parents had divorced when he was 12, that he had a sister he didn't talk to anymore. She knew he was brilliant with computers, that he drank his coffee black, that he preferred documentaries to fiction. But the deeper questions, what drove him, what he feared, what he wanted from life, remained frustratingly opaque. The bedroom door opened, and Travis leaned out. "You coming to bed?" "In a bit. Want to finish this article?" Sophia gestured vaguely at her laptop screen, which showed nothing but her photo gallery. Travis nodded and closed the door. Sophia waited, counting to 60, then 90, then a full 2 minutes. When she was certain he'd settled in, she stood and walked quietly to the dining table where his laptop sat. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. It was a violation of trust, the kind of thing that could end a relationship. But the unease had grown into something more insistent. A voice in her head that wouldn't quiet, that kept whispering that something was wrong, that she needed to look, that she needed to know. Her hand hovered over the laptop. The rain intensified, creating a white noise that masked the thundering of her heart. She glanced at the bedroom door, still closed, no light visible beneath it. Sophia opened the laptop. The screen illuminated immediately, showing Travis's desktop, a minimalist setup with few icons, everything organized with the precision of someone who spent their life working with code. But the laptop was locked, requiring a password she didn't have. She should stop here. This was already too far. But her fingers moved almost involuntarily, typing in possibilities. Travis's birthday, his mother's name, the name of his childhood dog he'd mentioned once. Nothing worked. Then she remembered something he'd said months ago, drunk on wine after a particularly good dinner. He'd been talking about his philosophy on passwords, how most people made them too complicated and then forgot them. The best password, he'd slurred, is something you'd never forget but nobody else would think to try. Sophia thought for a moment, then typed, Sophia 2022. The laptop unlocked. For a long moment she just stared at the screen, processing what it meant that his password was her name and the year they'd met. It should have felt romantic, like finding love notes hidden in drawers. Instead, it felt like being watched, like her name was a key to something she wasn't supposed to access. She navigated to his recent files, expecting to find work documents, perhaps some personal finances, maybe browsing history that would embarrass him, but ultimately prove innocent. Instead, she found a folder labeled Archive Backup 2021. The folder was encrypted, protected by another layer of security that displayed a dialog box requesting a different password. Sophia tried the same password. It didn't work. She tried variations, combinations of dates and names. Nothing. She was about to close the laptop when she noticed a text file on the desktop labeled Keys. Opening it revealed a list of what appeared to be password hints. First Sirius 2018, Rain City Home Original Sister's Real Feelings. The third one caught her attention. Travis had mentioned his sister Melissa only a handful of times and always with palpable discomfort. When Sophia had suggested they visit her during a trip to Seattle, Travis had become uncharacteristically aggressive, saying Melissa was toxic and manipulative, that she'd accused him of things that weren't true, that cutting her off had been necessary for his mental health. Sophia typed Melissa into the encryption password field. Nothing. She tried Melissa Keller, then Melissa 2018. Still nothing. Then, remembering the phrase sister's real feelings, she tried something different. Liar. The folder unlocked. The folder opened to reveal a cascade of files that made Sophia's breath catch in her throat. Videos. Dozens of them, each labeled with dates and names. Names she didn't recognize, but names that suggested an intimacy that contradicted everything Travis had told her about his past. Emma, September 2018 sleeping, MP4. Emma, October 2018 morning routine, MP4. Emma, December 2018 vulnerable moments, MP4. Sophia's hands trembled as she scrolled through the list. There were more names. Rachel, with videos spanning 2019 to early 2020. Jessica, with files from late 2020 through summer 2021. Each woman had dozens of videos, some with timestamps suggesting they'd been recorded in the middle of the night, others during what appeared to be ordinary daytime activities. The dates aligned with periods Travis had described as being single, or taking time for himself. He'd told Sophia she was only his third serious relationship, that he'd had a few brief encounters but nothing substantial before her. These files suggested something entirely different, a hidden history of relationships he'd never mentioned, documented in ways that felt intrusive and wrong. Sophia clicked on one of Emma's videos, her cursor hovering over the play button. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to close the laptop and pretend she'd never opened it. But the unease that had been building for weeks had crystallized into something sharper, fear mixed with desperate need to understand what she was looking at. The video opened with shaky footage clearly filmed from a handheld device, possibly a phone. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m., September 15, 2018. The scene showed a young woman sleeping in a bed, blonde hair spread across a pillow, her breathing slow and peaceful. The camera moved closer, the footage becoming clearer, focusing on her face with an intensity that felt violating even through the screen. "She looks so peaceful when she doesn't know I'm watching." Travis's voice came through the speakers, barely above a whisper. "This is when she's most vulnerable, most honest. No performance, no pretense, just Emma unguarded." Sophia slammed the laptop shut, her heart hammering so violently she thought she might be sick. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting the urge to scream, to run, to do anything that would alert Travis to what she'd discovered. The bedroom door remained closed. The rain continued its relentless assault on the windows. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the air thick and suffocating. She opened the laptop again, forcing herself to continue. There were more files in the folder, not just videos, but documents. One was labeled Behavioral Patterns, Docs. Sophia opened it with shaking hands. The document was a detailed analysis of the three women, Emma, Rachel, and Jessica, broken down into categories that read like a predator's hunting manual. Vulnerability windows, Emma. Most distracted during morning routine, frequently forgets to lock apartment door between 6:45 7:15 a.m. Phone left unattended during shower, trusts easily when approached with technical problems. Rachel. Anxiety medication taken at 10 p.m. Deep sleep cycle 11:30 p.m. 3 a.m. Poor situational awareness in parking structures. Isolation from family creates emotional vulnerability. Responds positively to displays of intense affection followed by withdrawal. Jessica. Running route consistent. Always Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. through Forest Park trails. Headphones create auditory vulnerability. History of dismissing intuition in favor of rationality. Strongest emotional attachment forms through shared trauma bonding. Sophia's vision blurred with tears as she continued reading. Each woman was dissected with clinical precision, their habits and vulnerabilities cataloged like specimens under glass. But it was the final section that made her blood run cold. Common patterns across subjects. All three demonstrate similar attachment styles: anxious, preoccupied, seeking validation, willing to overlook concerning behaviors when balanced with affection. All three isolated from support systems within 3 to 4 months of relationship establishment. All three shared details of past traumas that could be leveraged for emotional manipulation. Key insight: the pattern holds. Selection criteria confirmed effective. Each subject progresses through predictable stages: idealization, isolation, dependency, compliance. The question is not whether the pattern works, but how far it can be taken before the subject recognizes the structure. Emma recognized too early. Corrective action required. Rachel was more promising, but ultimately too resilient. Jessica nearly reached completion before external factors interfered. Next subject requires more careful approach. Learn from previous iterations. Perfect the methodology. Sophia's mind raced, trying to process what she was reading. Corrective action required. Nearly reached completion. External factors interfered. The clinical language couldn't disguise what he was describing. These weren't just relationships that had ended. Something terrible had happened to these women. She navigated back to the video files, forcing herself to open more. The videos of Rachel showed similar content. Footage of her sleeping, getting dressed, having private phone conversations, going about her daily life completely unaware she was being filmed. But the later videos showed something different. Rachel arguing with Travis, though the camera angle suggested he was filming secretly during the confrontation. Rachel crying, begging him to explain why he'd changed. Rachel's confusion and pain captured in high definition. The final video in Rachel's folder was dated March 15th, 2020. Sophia opened it with trembling hands. The footage showed Rachel sitting in a car, Travis's car. Sophia recognized the interior. It was nighttime, the dashboard lights casting green shadows across Rachel's face. She looked exhausted, defeated. Travis's voice came from behind the camera. "Tell me why you wanted to leave. Travis, please. We've been over this." Rachel's voice was hoarse, as if she'd been crying for hours. "I can't do this anymore. You're not the person I thought you were." "What does that mean? Explain it to me." "You watch me all the time. You follow me. You go through my phone, my emails. You've isolated me from everyone I care about, and when I try to talk about it, you make me feel crazy, like I'm imagining things." Rachel's hands twisted in her lap. "I found the cameras, Travis, in my apartment, in my bathroom." The camera jerked slightly. Travis's voice remained calm, almost amused. "You're being paranoid. Those were for security. I told you about the break-ins in your neighborhood." "There were no break-ins. I checked with the police, with my neighbors. You lied." Rachel looked directly at the camera, her eyes wide with fear and realization. "Everything you've told me is a lie. I don't even know who you really are." The video cut to black. The next file in the folder was a news article PDF, dated April 2020. Seattle woman, 26, missing after last seen leaving workplace. The article showed Rachel's photo, the same woman from the videos. Rachel Martinez, 26, had disappeared on March 18, 2020, 3 days after the confrontation in the car. She'd last been seen leaving her workplace at a Seattle marketing firm. Her car was found abandoned near Discovery Park. Despite extensive searches, no trace of her had ever been found. Sophia felt the room spinning. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself, forcing air into her lungs. This wasn't just surveillance or obsessive behavior. This was something far worse. She opened the folder for Jessica. The pattern repeated: surveillance videos, behavioral analysis documents, recordings of private moments. But Jessica's folder contained something the others didn't. A subfolder labeled Methodology Refinement. Inside were documents that read like a killer's playbook, detailed notes on how to stage disappearances to look like voluntary departures, research on digital footprints and how to create false trails, studies of missing person investigations and how they fail, articles about unsolved cases, with notes in the margins about what the perpetrators had done right and where they'd made mistakes. One document was titled, Learning from Bundy. Docs. Sophia opened it, her stomach churning. Theodore Bundy's primary operational error was selection visibility and pattern recognition. By maintaining victim similarity and geographic concentration, he created connectable data points for investigators. Key learnings. 1. Diversify selection criteria to prevent pattern recognition. 2. Increase geographic distribution. 3. Extend timeline between events. 4. Create plausible alternative narratives for each disappearance. The document continued for pages, analyzing multiple serial killers with the detached analytical approach of a student studying for an exam. But this wasn't academic interest. This was practical application, a blueprint being refined through real-world implementation. Sophia scrolled to Jessica's final videos. Like Rachel, they showed confrontation and realization. Jessica, a petite brunette with intense dark eyes, demanding answers. Jessica threatening to go to the police. And then, nothing. The folder ended abruptly in August 2021. A quick online search revealed another missing person case. Jessica Huang, 25, Portland resident, missing since August 2021. Last seen leaving her apartment in the Hawthorne district. Her case remained unsolved. Sophia's phone buzzed, making her jump. A text from Travis. "You still out there?" Her fingers felt numb as she typed back. "Yeah, just finishing up. Come to bed, it's late. 5 minutes." Sophia navigated through more files, her mind struggling to process the magnitude of what she was uncovering. Then she found a document that made her heart stop completely. Subject 4, Preliminary Assessment Docs. She opened it with hands that no longer felt connected to her body. Subject 4, Sophia Bennett, age 24, occupation, bookstore employee, aspiring graphic designer, selection date February 2022, relationship establishment March 2022. Initial assessment, excellent candidate profile. History of seeking validation through creative work with limited success creates emotional vulnerability. Recent graduate with significant student debt increases financial dependency potential. Small social circle, strained family relationships, deceased mother, distant father, suggest limited support system and easier isolation. Personality indicators align with previous successful subjects. Anxious attachment style, tendency towards self-doubt, strong desire for stable partnership. Initial testing shows high receptivity to attention and affirmation, likely result of childhood emotional neglect following maternal loss at age 14. Methodology, adjustments for Subject 4. Based on Rachel and Jessica complications, implementing more gradual isolation approach. The document continued, outlining Travis's plans for their relationship with chilling precision. Every moment they'd shared, every conversation, every gesture of affection, all of it had been calculated, manipulated, designed to move her through stages toward some ultimate endpoint he'd never named but clearly imagined. Sophia scrolled to the bottom of the document, where the most recent entry was dated just 3 days ago. November 18, 2022. Subject 4, progression satisfactory. Isolation nearly complete. Financial dependency increasing. Trust level high despite recent intuition spikes. Noted increased questions about schedule, past relationships. May need to accelerate timeline. Considering optimal completion window for early December, during holiday period when missing person reports receive less immediate attention. Methodology decision pending. Stage as voluntary departure versus accidental circumstances. Subject 4's vehicle provides opportunity for scenic highway accident scenario. Highway 101 between Cannon Beach and Manzanita has history of winter weather accidents. Alternative, utilize Forest Park hiking scenario. Established precedent with Jessica's case studies. Sophia's entire body went numb. The words on the screen blurred as tears streamed down her face, but she forced herself to keep reading. Travis wasn't just documenting his obsession, he was planning her murder, weighing different scenarios like someone choosing between menu options at a restaurant. The bedroom door opened. Sophia's heart stopped. She looked up to see Travis standing in the doorway wearing only boxer shorts, his expression unreadable in the dim light from the laptop screen. For a moment, neither of them moved. The rain had softened to a gentle patter against the windows, making the silence between them even more pronounced. "Can't sleep?" Travis asked, his voice carrying that same casual concern that now sounded like a predator's purr. "No," Sophia managed, her voice surprisingly steady despite the terror coursing through her veins. "Just thinking about tomorrow, the interview." She was lying. There was no interview, but she needed to say something. anything to explain why she was sitting at his laptop at 1 in the morning. Travis took a step closer. His eyes moved from her face to the laptop screen. Sophia's hand moved instinctively to the trackpad, clicking to minimize the window, but she knew it was too late. She could see the calculation happening behind his eyes, the way his expression shifted from sleepy confusion to something sharper, more alert. "What are you looking at?" He asked the question softly, but there was an edge beneath the words. "Nothing. Just, I wanted to check my email and my laptop died." Another lie, and they both knew it. Travis moved closer, and Sophia fought every instinct to run. If she ran now, she'd never make it to the door. The apartment was small, and he was faster, stronger. She needed to play this carefully, needed to pretend she hadn't seen what she'd seen, needed to buy herself time. "On my laptop?" Travis stopped a few feet away, his bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. "Your charger is right there on the couch." Sophia glanced at her laptop charger, plugged into the wall exactly where she always left it. The lie crumbled before she could construct another one. "I'm sorry," she said, choosing a different approach. Honesty, or at least partial honesty. "I've been feeling weird lately about us, about you, the way you've been so secretive, and I wanted to understand what was going on." Travis's jaw tightened. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she'd once found endearing and now recognized as a tell. He did it when he was thinking, calculating his next move. "So you went through my private files?" His voice remained calm, but his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "That's a pretty significant violation of trust, Sophia." The irony of his statement would have been laughable if she weren't terrified. He was standing there talking about trust, while his laptop contained evidence of surveillance, stalking, and murder. "I know," Sophia said, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "I know, and I'm sorry, it was wrong, She let her voice break, allowed tears to flow. They came easily enough given the circumstances. "I thought maybe you were cheating on me. I thought maybe there was someone else." It was the perfect excuse, the kind of jealous girlfriend suspicion that he might find believable. Travis's expression softened slightly, but his eyes remained watchful, predatory. "I'm not cheating on you," he said, taking another step closer. "There's no one else. There's never been anyone else since we got together." "I saw the folders," Sophia pressed, deciding to acknowledge what she'd seen but pretend ignorance of their true contents. "The names. Emma, Rachel, Jessica. Who are they?" Travis's jaw worked silently. He looked at the laptop, then back at her, and she could see him making decisions, constructing a narrative that would explain away her discoveries without revealing the full horror. "They're ex-girlfriends," he said finally, sitting down in the chair across from her. The casual movement felt deliberate, non-threatening, designed to make her lower her guard. "I kept some old files from past relationships, photos, videos, memories. I know it's probably weird, but I have a hard time letting go of the past." "Those videos," Sophia began, choosing her words carefully. "Some of them looked like the women didn't know they were being filmed." Travis's expression darkened. "You watched them?" "Only a couple, before I realized how private they were." Sophia forced herself to look embarrassed, ashamed. "Travis, some of that footage, it felt wrong, like you were watching them without their permission." "They knew," Travis said quickly. "Too quickly. We had an agreement. They liked being filmed. It was part of our relationship dynamic, kind of a kink thing. You wouldn't understand because we've never explored that together. But some people enjoy that kind of documentation." The lie was smooth, well-practiced. If Sophia hadn't read the behavioral analysis documents, hadn't seen Rachel's terrified face in the car, hadn't read the clinical notes about vulnerability windows and completion timelines, she might have believed him. She might have accepted this explanation and apologized for invading his privacy. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have looked." Travis relaxed slightly, believing he'd successfully managed the crisis. "It's okay, I understand." You were feeling insecure about us, and I haven't been very present lately. That's on me." He reached across the space between them, taking her hand. His palm was warm, his grip gentle but firm. "But Sophia, relationships are built on trust. Going through my private files, my past relationships, that breaks something fundamental between us." She wanted to laugh at the absurdity, wanted to scream that trust was already shattered, that he'd been planning to kill her, that she'd read his methodology documents and timeline assessments. But she squeezed his hand instead, manufactured a small smile. "I know. It won't happen again. I promise." "Good." Travis stood, pulling her up with him. "Let's go to bed. We can talk more about this in the morning when we're not both exhausted." Sophia allowed herself to be led to the bedroom, her mind racing. She needed a plan. She needed to get out of the apartment, get to safety, get to the police. But if she tried to leave now, Travis would know something was wrong. She needed him to believe she'd accepted his explanation. Needed him to think she was still the compliant, trusting girlfriend he'd documented in his assessment files. They climbed into bed, and Travis pulled her close, his arm draped across her waist in what should have felt like an embrace but instead felt like a restraint. His breathing gradually slowed, evening out into the pattern of sleep. But Sophia remained rigid, her eyes open in the darkness, watching the red numbers on the alarm clock slowly advance. 2:47 a.m., 2:48 a.m., 2:49 a.m. She waited until 3:15, until she was certain Travis was deeply asleep, before carefully extracting herself from his grip. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. Sophia moved with excruciating slowness, each movement calculated to avoid the creaking floorboard she'd learned to navigate over the past 8 months. In the living room, she retrieved her phone from the coffee table. Her hands shook as she opened the voice recording app, checking to make sure it was set up correctly. She needed evidence. The files on Travis's laptop would be crucial, but she needed something more immediate, something that couldn't be denied or explained away. The idea had come to her while lying in bed, staring at the darkness. Travis was meticulous, controlled, but he was also proud of his methodology. The way he'd written about his subjects, the clinical pride in his documentation. He wanted to be understood, wanted someone to appreciate the precision of his work. If she could get him to talk, to admit what he'd done, she'd have the evidence she needed. But how? She couldn't just ask him directly about the murders. He'd shut down, or worse. He might accelerate his timeline, decide she was too much of a risk to keep around any longer. Sophia returned to Travis's laptop, which he'd left on the dining table, still unlocked. She navigated through the folders again, looking for something she could use, some piece of information that would force him to reveal himself. That's when she found the final document, buried in a subfolder labeled Insurance. Personal Journal 2022, Docs. She opened it and began to read. Unlike the clinical assessment documents, this was written in first person, a stream of consciousness that revealed not just Travis's actions, but his thoughts, his justifications, his twisted logic. May 14th, 2022. Sophia is different from the others. She has this quality, this innocence mixed with sadness that makes her perfect. When I watch her sleep, I can see the little girl who lost her mother, still looking for someone to make her feel safe. That's what I give her. Safety, security, love. The fact that it's all a construct doesn't make it less real for her. She believes in us, in me. That belief is beautiful, even if it's built on lies. June 22nd, 2022. Sometimes I wonder if I'm actually capable of following through. With Emma, it was easy. She was my first real attempt, and the rush of power made the decision simple. Rachel was harder. She fought more, resisted more. I almost admired her for it. Jessica was different again, smarter, more intuitive. She almost figured it out before I was ready. But Sophia, there's something about her that makes me hesitate. Not enough to stop, but enough to make me want to savor this longer. August 8th, 2022. Watched a documentary about Ted Bundy tonight while Sophia slept beside me. The narrator kept talking about how Bundy compartmentalized his life, how he was charming and normal on the surface while harboring darkness underneath. They make it sound like a split personality, but it's not. It's integration. I am both people, the loving boyfriend and the hunter. They're not separate, they're the same. When I hold Sophia, I'm genuinely feeling affection for her, even while planning her end. The emotions are real. That's what people don't understand. October 30th, 2022. The true crime content I watch isn't just research anymore, it's validation. All these documentaries, podcasts, YouTube channels dedicated to analyzing killers like they're complicated puzzles to be solved. They're fascinated by us, obsessed with understanding our motives and methods. In a way, I'm giving future true crime enthusiasts a gift. Sophia's case will be analyzed, discussed, theorized about. She'll be remembered. Without me, she's just another struggling graphic designer in a city full of them. With me, she becomes part of history. Sophia had to stop reading. The narcissism, the complete absence of empathy, the way he romanticized murder as some kind of philosophical act, it was beyond disturbing. But it was also exactly what she needed. She took photos of the journal entries with her phone, careful to capture the dates and content. She photographed the behavioral assessment documents, the methodology files, the news articles about Rachel and Jessica. She worked quickly but thoroughly, building a digital archive of evidence. Then she had an idea, risky, but potentially exactly what she needed to get Travis to incriminate himself. Sophia spent the next hour carefully planning her approach. She couldn't simply confront Travis with what she'd found. That would put her in immediate danger. But she also couldn't just run to the police with screenshots and claims. She needed him to confess, to speak the words that would damn him, captured in a recording that couldn't be disputed or explained away. The sun was beginning to rise, casting pale gray light through the rain-streaked windows. Portland mornings in November were like this. Slow, reluctant, the city waking up under layers of clouds and mist. Sophia made coffee, the familiar ritual helping to steady her nerves. She needed to appear normal, needed Travis to believe everything was fine. She heard movement from the bedroom. Travis emerged a few minutes later, already dressed in jeans and a sweater, his hair still damp from a shower she hadn't heard him take. He moved quietly, efficiently, like someone accustomed to operating in stealth. "You're up early," he said, accepting the coffee mug she offered him. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Sophia fought the urge to recoil. Couldn't sleep much after. Everything. She kept her voice small, apologetic. "Travis, I really am sorry about last night. I know I violated your trust." He studied her face, and she could see him assessing, calculating whether her contrition was genuine. "It's okay. We all make mistakes when we're feeling insecure." He took a sip of coffee. "I'm going to be working from home again today. Big deadline coming up." "Actually," Sophia said, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it, "I was thinking maybe we could talk. Really talk. About us. About where this relationship is going. I feel like we've been avoiding some important conversations." Travis's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of something that might have been annoyance or calculation. "What kind of conversations?" "About your past. About the women you were with before me." Sophia sat down on the couch, positioning herself so her phone, which she'd set to record audio and placed face down on the coffee table, would capture their conversation. "I know I saw things I shouldn't have last night, but now I can't stop thinking about it. Who were they? What happened with them?" Travis remained standing, his posture stiffening. "I told you, they were ex-girlfriends, past relationships that didn't work out." "But why keep all those videos? All those files?" Sophia pressed, carefully calibrating her tone to sound curious rather than accusatory. "It seems like more than just memories. It seems like you were studying them." "Studying them?" Travis laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's a dramatic interpretation." "Is it?" Sophia forced herself to maintain eye contact. "I saw the documents, Travis. The behavioral analyses, the patterns you were tracking, That's not normal relationship documentation. The air in the apartment seemed to thicken. Travis set down his coffee mug with careful precision, and Sophia recognized the gesture from his journal entries. It was what he did when he was transitioning from one persona to another, from the affable boyfriend to something darker. "You read more than you admitted to last night," he said slowly. "How much did you see?" This was the dangerous moment. Sophia could retreat, could claim she'd only glanced at a few files and misunderstood what she'd seen. But that wouldn't get her the confession she needed. She needed to push him, to make him believe she knew enough that denial was pointless, but not so much that he'd view her as an immediate threat to eliminate. "Enough," she said quietly. "Enough to know that Emma, Rachel, and Jessica weren't just ex-girlfriends. Enough to know that you were watching them, following them, documenting their vulnerabilities. Enough to know that Rachel and Jessica are missing, and you have files connecting you to their disappearances." Travis was silent for a long moment. His expression had gone completely blank, the mask finally dropping to reveal something cold and analytical beneath. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. No more warmth, no more pretense of affection. "And what do you plan to do with this information, Sophia?" "I don't know," she answered honestly. "That's why I wanted to talk. I need to understand. I need you to explain to me how the person I've been living with, the person I thought I loved, could do these things." "Could do what things exactly?" Travis moved closer, sitting down in the chair across from her. His body language was relaxed, but his eyes were intensely focused. "You're making assumptions based on files you don't understand, connecting dots that don't necessarily connect." "Then explain it to me," Sophia urged. "Make me understand, because right now what I'm seeing is a pattern. 3 women all around my age, all with similar backgrounds, all documented with the same clinical precision. And 2 of them are missing, Travis. 2 women you were involved with have disappeared without a trace." Travis leaned back, a slight smile playing at his lips. "You want to understand? You want me to explain my methodology to you?" There was something almost pleased in his tone, as if he'd been waiting for this moment for someone to finally ask the right questions. "Yes," Sophia said, though every instinct screamed at her to run. "I want to understand how your mind works, how you could do what you did." "What I did," Travis repeated. "You're assuming I did something criminal. What if I told you that Rachel and Jessica's disappearances had nothing to do with me? What if I said I was just someone who documented relationships carefully, who liked to understand the people I was with?" "I'd say you're lying." Sophia's voice was steady despite her terror. "I read your journal, Travis. I read the entries where you wrote about completion timelines and methodology refinement. I read where you compared yourself to Ted Bundy and talked about what you learned from studying serial killers." The smile faded from Travis's face. "You shouldn't have read that." "Probably not, but I did. And now I need to know. Was it always like this? Were you always this person, or did you become this?" Travis stood abruptly, pacing to the window. He stared out at the rainy Portland morning, his reflection ghostly in the glass. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful, almost philosophical. "You know what's interesting about true crime content? Everyone consumes it. Everyone watches the documentaries, listens to the podcasts, reads the books. They're fascinated by killers, obsessed with understanding how someone could do such terrible things. But they always maintain this comfortable distance, this moral superiority. They could never imagine themselves capable of violence." "That's because most people aren't capable of it," Sophia said. Travis turned to face her. "Everyone is capable of it. The difference is opportunity, justification, and whether you have the courage to act on impulses most people suppress." He moved back toward her, and Sophia had to force herself not to retreat. "Emma was an accident, really. We had a fight. She threatened to leave, and in that moment, I realized I could stop her. Permanently. It was clarifying. The power of that moment, the absolute control. It changed something in me, made me understand something fundamental about human nature." Sophia's throat felt tight. He was confessing, actually confessing, speaking about murder with the casual tone someone might use to describe a revelation during therapy. "You killed her." "I stopped her from leaving," Travis corrected. "There's a difference in how you frame these things. Emma wanted to end our relationship, to walk away, to reduce everything we'd built together to nothing but a failed experiment. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let her dismiss me like I was insignificant." "Where is she now?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Travis smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Emma doesn't exist anymore, that's the point. She's gone, erased, reduced to a missing person case that will never be solved. And in her place, I have the memory of that control, that power. It was intoxicating." "And Rachel? Jessica?" Sophia needed him to say it all, needed the complete confession captured on the recording. "Rachel figured out too much, too fast. She found the cameras I'd hidden in her apartment. A mistake on my part, poor placement. She confronted me, threatened to go to the police. I couldn't let that happen." Travis's tone was matter-of-fact, as if he were explaining a routine business decision. "I convinced her to meet me, told her we needed to talk things through. She trusted me enough to get in my car. That was her mistake." "You killed her," Sophia stated, needing the explicit admission. "I made her disappear," Travis said. "There's an art to it, actually. Making someone vanish without leaving evidence, without creating a trail that leads back to you. It requires planning, patience, attention to detail. Rachel fought, which complicated things, but ultimately the result was the same. She's gone. Her family still searches for her, still hopes she'll come home. They'll never find her." Sophia felt bile rising in her throat. The casual cruelty, the complete absence of remorse, it was beyond anything she'd imagined. And Jessica? Jessica was smarter than the others. She sensed something was wrong earlier in our relationship, started asking questions, pulling away. I had to adapt my approach, be more careful, but she still ended up exactly where I planned for her to be. Travis sat down again, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "You want to know the truth? Each one taught me something. Emma taught me that I was capable. Rachel taught me to be more careful with surveillance. Jessica taught me patience. And you, Sophia, you were supposed to be the culmination of everything I'd learned, the perfect execution of refined methodology. Sophia caught the past tense. What changed?" Travis gestured at the laptop, at the evidence scattered across their lives. "You changed. You went looking for answers and you found them. Now we're in a different scenario than the one I'd planned. Now I have to decide what to do with you." The threat hung in the air between them. Sophia's hand moved imperceptibly closer to her phone, still recording every word. She needed to keep him talking, needed to get more details, more evidence. But she also needed to survive this conversation. "Why are you telling me all of this?" she asked. "Why confess?" Travis smiled again, and this time there was genuine amusement in it. "Because it feels good to finally say it out loud. Do you know how exhausting it is? Maintaining the facade? Being the normal boyfriend, the reliable co-worker, the unremarkable neighbor? I've been performing for so long, pretending to be someone I'm not. You asked me to explain, and I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending that what I've done is wrong when it's actually the most honest thing about me." "It is wrong," Sophia said. "You murdered 3 women. You destroyed families, ended lives. That's not honesty. That's evil." "Evil is just a label people use for things they don't understand," Travis countered. "I'm not evil. I'm evolved. I recognized something fundamental about human nature and acted on it. The fact that society has rules against it doesn't make my actions morally wrong. It just makes them illegal. There's a difference." "No," Sophia said firmly. "There isn't. You killed people who trusted you. You planned to kill me. That's not evolution, that's psychopathy." Travis's expression hardened. "Don't psychoanalyze me with terms you barely understand. I'm not some damaged person acting out childhood trauma. I'm completely aware of what I am and what I've done. I've made conscious choices and I don't regret them." Sophia's mind raced, calculating her next move. Travis had confessed to 3 murders, his words captured on the recording device still running on the coffee table. But she was also acutely aware that she was alone in an apartment with a man who had just admitted to killing 3 women and who had originally planned for her to be the 4th. "What happens now?" she asked, keeping her voice as steady as possible. "You've told me everything. You've admitted what you did. So what's your plan, Travis?" Travis stood and walked to the window again, his back to her. The gray morning light made him look like a silhouette, a shadow of the person she'd thought she knew. When he spoke, his voice was contemplative. "That's the question, isn't it? I've spent months planning your disappearance. The timeline, the methodology, the cover story. Everything was in place. December 8th was supposed to be the day. A tragic accident on Highway 101. Your car going over the cliff during a storm. It would have been perfect." He turned to face her. "But now you know. You've seen the files, read the documents. That changes the equation." "You could let me go," Sophia suggested, though she knew it was futile. "I could leave, move away, never speak about what I've learned." Travis laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "And I'm supposed to trust that? Trust that you won't go directly to the police the moment you walk out that door? You're not that naive, Sophia, and neither am I." "Then what?" Sophia's hand moved infinitesimally closer to her phone. "You're going to kill me right now. Here in the apartment? That wasn't part of your plan. You said yourself that you're careful, methodical. An impulsive murder doesn't fit your pattern." "You're right," Travis admitted, his analytical mind clearly working through the problem. "An unplanned killing creates complications, forensic evidence, timeline inconsistencies, increased scrutiny. My strength has always been in the planning, the preparation. Acting impulsively would be a mistake." Sophia seized on this. "So we're at an impasse. You can't let me go, but you also can't kill me here without risking everything you've built. What's your solution?" Travis moved toward her, and every muscle in Sophia's body tensed. He sat down on the couch beside her, too close, invading her space in a way that felt predatory and deliberate. She could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gray in his dark hair, notice the slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I'm going to give you a choice," he said. "Option 1. You try to leave, try to go to the police, and I'm forced to act immediately. It will be messy, imperfect, not at all how I prefer to work. But I will do it, and I will find a way to make it work. Your body will never be found, just like the others." Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. "And option 2? Option 2, you accept the situation we're in. You understand that I'm not going to let you destroy everything I've built. You give me time to create a new plan, a better plan, maybe 24 hours. During that time, you stay here. You don't contact anyone, you don't try to run. You let me think through the optimal solution to our problem." "You mean you want 24 hours to plan how to kill me more carefully?" Sophia said flatly. Travis shrugged. "I mean, I want time to consider all possibilities. Maybe there's a scenario where we both get what we need. Maybe there's a way to ensure your silence without resorting to permanent measures. I don't know yet, but I need time to think, and I need you to cooperate while I do." Sophia pretended to consider his offer, though her mind was already racing ahead. 24 hours trapped in an apartment with a serial killer wasn't a real choice. It was a death sentence with a delayed execution, but if she pretended to agree, it might buy her the opening she needed. "How do I know you won't just kill me anyway?" she asked. "How do I know you're not just saying this to keep me calm while you figure out the best way to get rid of me?" "You don't," Travis answered honestly. "But consider your alternatives. If you try to run now, I'll stop you. If you try to fight, I'm stronger than you. If you scream, we both know these walls are thick, and Mrs. Chen next door is deaf in one ear. Your only real option is to trust that I meant what I said about preferring careful planning to impulsive action." Sophia nodded slowly, as if accepting the logic of his argument. "Okay, 24 hours, but I need something from you in return." Travis raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating. That's bold." "I need honesty," Sophia said. If I'm going to spend the next day here, possibly the last day of my life, I need you to answer my questions. I need to understand how this happened, how you became this person. You said yourself that you're tired of hiding, so don't hide. Not from me. Not now. Travis studied her face, and Sophia could see him weighing the request. Finally, he nodded. All right. Ask your questions. Emma Martinez, Sophia began, using the name she'd found in the news articles. How did you kill her? Travis leaned back, his expression becoming distant as he recalled the memory. It was March 2018. We'd been together for 6 months. She found some of the surveillance footage. I was less careful then, still learning. She confronted me in her apartment, said she was done, that she was leaving. We argued. She turned her back to walk away, and He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I grabbed a lamp from her side table. Heavy glass base. I hit her once from behind. She went down immediately. Sophia forced herself to remain calm, to not react to the casual brutality of his description. And then I had to figure out what to do with a body. I'd never actually planned for that scenario. Like I said, it was impulsive, but I had my car, and it was late, and I knew a place out past Forest Park where hikers rarely go. I wrapped her in the shower curtain from her bathroom, carried her down the back stairs when I was sure no one was around, and drove her out to the woods. Travis's voice remained steady, clinical. I buried her deep, in a ravine that fills with water during heavy rains. By now there's nothing left to find, even if someone looked in the right place. Her family still searches for her, Sophia said, thinking of the missing person reports she'd seen. They put up flyers, organize search parties. They don't know she's dead. That's not my problem, Travis said coldly. They should have raised a daughter who didn't snoop through her boyfriend's private files. She made choices that led to consequences. The victim blaming was so casual, so absolute, that Sophia had to fight to keep her expression neutral. And Rachel? How did you kill her? Rachel was more planned. After Emma, I understood that I needed better methodology. Rachel confronted me in my car. You saw that video. After that conversation, I knew she was going to go to the police, so I told her I wanted to talk one more time, that I needed to explain some things. She agreed to meet me at Discovery Park, thinking we'd walk and talk like we used to. Travis's eyes had taken on a distant quality, as if he were watching the memory play out in his mind. I brought a tire iron, kept it in my jacket. When we got to a secluded part of the trail, I struck her from behind, just like with Emma. But this time, I'd prepared better. I had plastic sheeting in the car, gloves, cleaning supplies. I wrapped her body and drove it to a different location. I'd scouted it weeks earlier, an abandoned well on private property east of the city. She went down about 40 feet. I filled the top with debris, made it look like it had been unused for years. Sophia felt sick, but she forced herself to keep asking questions. And Jessica Huang? Jessica was the most challenging. She was suspicious from early on, harder to isolate, harder to control. I had to be more patient with her, more careful. When I finally decided it was time, I staged it as a hiking accident, invited her to Silver Falls State Park, suggested we take one of the more remote trails. She trusted me enough to go. We were behind South Falls on a rocky section near the water. I pushed her. It looked like a slip, a fall onto the rocks below. But I'd calculated the angle, knew exactly where she'd land and that the impact would be fatal. But she didn't die immediately, Sophia said, remembering details from the missing person reports. She was reported missing from her apartment, not from a hiking trail. Travis smiled, seeming pleased that she'd caught the inconsistency. Good catch. No, that fall didn't kill her. It should have, but she was stronger than I anticipated. She broke several bones, was badly injured but conscious. I had to finish it manually. Then I took her body back to her apartment. She'd given me a key months earlier. I made it look like she'd never left for a hike, that she'd simply vanished from her home. More mysterious that way, more possibilities for investigators to chase. The casual way he described murdering these women, the pride he took in his methodology, made Sophia's blood run cold. But she needed to keep him talking, needed to keep the recording capturing every detail. "You documented everything," Sophia observed. "The videos, the behavioral analyses, the journal entries. Why keep evidence that could destroy you?" "Because the documentation is the point," Travis said, leaning forward with sudden intensity. "Without documentation, it's just violence. With documentation, it's art. It's a record of control, of understanding, of perfect execution. Those files are proof that I'm not some common criminal acting on impulse. I'm a student of human behavior, conducting experiments, refining techniques. The files are my legacy." "Your legacy?" Sophia repeated. "You actually believe you're creating something meaningful by killing women?" "I believe I'm exploring aspects of human nature that most people are too afraid to examine," Travis said. "Everyone is fascinated by killers, the documentaries, the podcasts, the endless analysis of what makes them tick. I'm providing primary source material for that fascination. Someday, when I'm caught or dead, those files will be studied. Criminologists will analyze my methodology. Psychologists will debate my motivations. I'll be remembered, understood, analyzed for generations. That's more legacy than most people ever achieve." "You're insane," Sophia said quietly. "No," Travis countered. "I'm honest about what I am. Most people spend their lives lying to themselves, pretending they're good when they're just cowards. I've stopped pretending. That's not insanity, that's clarity." Sophia's phone buzzed suddenly, vibrating against the coffee table. Both of them looked at it. Travis reached over and picked it up before Sophia could react. He looked at the screen. "Maya Chen," he read. "Texting to confirm coffee this morning. Are you still planning to meet her?" Sophia's heart sank. She'd completely forgotten about the coffee date she'd agreed to the night before. "Yes," she said carefully. "We made plans last night." Travis set the phone down, leaving it face up on the table between them. A subtle power play demonstrating his control over her communication with the outside world. "Text her back. Tell her you're not feeling well, that you need to reschedule. And if I don't, then I'll assume you're not serious about cooperating and we'll move directly to option 1. The threat was delivered calmly, matter-of-factly. 24 hours of cooperation, Sophia. That was the deal. Canceling a coffee date is a small price to pay for staying alive a little longer." Sophia picked up her phone with trembling hands. Travis watched as she typed out a message to Maya. "Hey, woke up with a bad headache. Can we reschedule? Sorry." Maya's response came quickly. "Of course, feel better. Let me know if you need anything." Travis nodded approvingly. "Good. See? Cooperation makes everything easier." The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Travis made breakfast, eggs and toast, as if this were just another normal morning in their relationship. Sophia forced herself to eat, knowing she needed her strength for whatever came next. The recording on her phone had continued throughout their entire conversation, capturing Travis's confession in damning detail. But the phone sat on the coffee table between them, and she had no way to send the file to anyone without Travis noticing. Around noon, Travis's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's work. I need to take this." He looked at Sophia with a warning expression. "Don't do anything stupid while I'm in the other room." He disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. Sophia's heart raced. This was her chance, possibly her only chance. She grabbed her phone from the coffee table, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She opened her email app, fingers flying across the screen as she attached the audio recording file. But who should she send it to? The police? Maya? Her father? If she sent it to the wrong person, or if it didn't go through quickly enough, Travis would see what she'd done and the 24 hours of supposed safety would evaporate. She could hear Travis's muffled voice through the bedroom door, discussing code deployments and server issues. She had maybe 2 minutes, 3 at most. Sophia made a decision. She sent the recording to 3 people simultaneously: Maya, her father, and she forwarded it to the Portland Police Bureau's tip line email that she'd Googled quickly. In the body of each email, she typed frantically, "This is Sophia Bennett. The attached recording is my boyfriend Travis Keller confessing to murdering 3 women, Emma Martinez, Rachel Martinez, and Jessica Huang. I'm being held against my will at 1847 NW Lovejoy Street, App 304. Please send help immediately. He's planning to kill me." Her finger hovered over the send button. Once she pressed it, there was no going back. Travis would know she'd betrayed their agreement, and he would almost certainly react with violence. But if she didn't send it, she'd be trapped here with no evidence of what was happening. No way for anyone to know she was in danger. She pressed send. The whoosh sound of the emails departing seemed impossibly loud in the quiet apartment. Sophia quickly closed the email app and set the phone back down on the coffee table, trying to position it exactly as Travis had left it. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she forced herself to sit back on the couch, attempting to look casual despite the adrenaline flooding her system. The bedroom door opened. Travis emerged, sliding his phone into his pocket. His eyes went immediately to Sophia, then to her phone on the table. She held her breath, waiting to see if he'd noticed anything amiss. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," Sophia managed. "Just sitting here thinking." "About what?" "About whether I'm going to survive the next 24 hours. Travis sat down across from her again. "That depends entirely on you. If you cooperate, if you give me time to work through the options, there's a possibility we can find a solution that doesn't end with your death." "You don't actually believe that," Sophia said. "You've already killed 3 women. What makes you think you can let me live knowing what I know?" "Because you're different," Travis said, and for the first time there seemed to be genuine uncertainty in his voice. "Emma, Rachel, Jessica, they were experiments, test subjects. But you, I've spent more time with you than any of them. I've documented you more thoroughly, understood you more completely. There's a part of me that doesn't want to complete this particular project." "That's not love," Sophia said quietly. "That's ownership. You don't want to lose your favorite possession." Travis's jaw tightened. "Maybe. Or maybe it's the closest thing to love that someone like me is capable of feeling. Does the distinction really matter?" Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed again. Both of them looked at it. Travis reached over and picked it up, and Sophia's blood turned to ice. The screen showed a text from Maya. "Oh my God, Sophia, I just got your email. I'm calling the police right now. Stay safe." Travis's expression changed instantly. The mask of civility he'd been maintaining shattered, replaced by cold fury. He looked from the phone to Sophia, his eyes hard and calculating. "You sent the recording," he said flatly. There was no point in denying it. "Yes. To who?" "Maya. My father. The police." Sophia stood, putting the coffee table between them. "They know everything now, Travis. They're coming. It's over." For a moment, Travis just stared at her, and Sophia couldn't read his expression. Then suddenly he laughed, a genuine laugh that sent chills down her spine. "You actually did it. You risked everything on a single move." He stood, still holding her phone. "I have to admit, I'm impressed. That took courage. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless." "The police will be here any minute," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You need to let me go. If you leave now, maybe you can—" "Run?" Travis interrupted. "Disappear? Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder?" He shook his head. "That's not who I am. I don't run from consequences." He moved toward the kitchen, and Sophia saw him grab a knife from the block on the counter, a long chef's knife they'd used countless times to prepare meals together. The domesticity of the weapon made it somehow more terrifying. "Travis, don't," Sophia said, backing toward the door. "This doesn't have to end this way." "You're right. It doesn't." Travis moved between her and the door, cutting off her escape route. "If you'd kept cooperating, if you'd given me the 24 hours like we agreed, I might have found another solution. But you made your choice. You sent that recording. Now I have to make mine." Sophia's mind raced. The apartment was small, with limited places to run or hide. Travis was blocking the front door. The bedroom and bathroom were dead ends with no secondary exits. Her only advantage was that the police were coming. But how long would it take them to arrive? 5 minutes? 10? Would it be fast enough? They heard everything, Sophia said, desperately trying to stall. They know about Emma, Rachel, Jessica. They know you're planning to kill me. If you do this, there's no ambiguity. No possibility of claiming innocence. You'll go to prison for the rest of your life. I was already going to prison, Travis said calmly. The moment you sent that recording, my freedom ended. The only question now is whether I let them take me before I finish what I started, or whether I complete this final project. He took a step closer, and Sophia grabbed the nearest object, a heavy hardcover book from the shelf beside her, and threw it at his head. Travis dodged easily, but it bought her a second to dart past him, making a desperate run for the door. She almost made it. Her hand was on the doorknob when Travis grabbed her from behind, his arm wrapping around her waist and yanking her backward. Sophia screamed, hoping Mrs. Chen next door would hear despite her hearing problems, hoping someone in the building would respond. Travis's hand clamped over her mouth, muffling her screams. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he hissed in her ear. Sophia bit down on his palm as hard as she could. Travis cursed and released her for just a moment, long enough for Sophia to wrench the door open and stumble into the hallway. "Help!" she screamed. "Someone help me!" Sophia fled down the stairwell as Travis chased her, the sound of his steady footsteps close behind. She burst into the lobby just as police officers entered, immediately taking in the scene. Sophia terrified, Travis emerging with a knife in hand. When ordered to drop the weapon, Travis hesitated, met Sophia's eyes, then smiled coldly and raised the knife. The officers fired. Travis collapsed, the knife skidding across the floor. Though gravely wounded, he was still alive. Sophia, shaken and barely able to speak, was reassured by the officers that she was safe. As paramedics worked on Travis, Sophia struggled to process that the man she loved had tried to kill her, and had murdered 3 women before her. Detective Sarah Morrison thanked Sophia for the recording she had sent, calling it an act of extraordinary courage. Officers were already securing Travis's apartment and evidence with the goal of finding Emma, Rachel, and Jessica. The promise of answers, painful but final, settled heavily on Sophia. Over the following hours, Sophia gave a detailed statement, recounting everything she had discovered and recorded. Exhausted but determined, she knew every detail mattered to ensure Travis could never hurt anyone again. Once Travis was formally charged, Sophia stood beside Detective Morrison at a press conference. The charges included 3 counts of first-degree murder and attempted murder. Sophia's recording, combined with digital and forensic evidence, made the case overwhelming. Asked why she recorded Travis instead of fleeing sooner, Sophia explained that people needed to understand not only what he did, but why, how his obsession with true crime shifted from analysis to emulation. She warned of the danger in turning violence into intellectual entertainment, noting that for Travis, such content became instruction rather than caution. Families of the victims reached out in gratitude and grief, standing with Sophia throughout the trial. After 3 weeks, the jury found Travis guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In her victim impact statement, Sophia rejected Travis's desire for notoriety. Instead, she honored Emma, Rachel, and Jessica as real women with passions, dreams, and futures that had been stolen. After the trial, Sophia left Portland and rebuilt her life in Seattle. She became an advocate for victims of domestic violence, speaking publicly about warning signs, coercive control, and the importance of evidence. She also called for responsibility within the true crime community, urging creators to center victims, acknowledge the human cost of violence, and avoid glorifying those who commit it. Maya remained Sophia's closest friend during the difficult months after the trial, reminding her that surviving and helping bring justice already mattered. Though Sophia struggled with guilt over those who didn't make it, Maya insisted that honoring the victims meant living well and telling their stories. A year after Travis's conviction, Sophia received a letter from Jessica Huang's mother, thanking her for giving their family truth, closure, and justice. The letter became something Sophia returned to whenever the weight of the past felt overwhelming. She also stayed in contact with Emma and Rachel's families, relationships that were painful but deeply healing. When true crime documentaries began to emerge about Travis Keller, Sophia declined most offers. She agreed to participate in only one, on the condition that it focused on the victims rather than sensationalizing the killer, and that the families retained editorial control. In her interview, Sophia spoke openly about coercive control, isolation, and how abuse can hide behind what looks like love. She also addressed the true crime audience directly, warning against turning perpetrators into entertainment and reminding viewers that every case represents real lives destroyed. Travis, she explained, consumed the same content, and somewhere along the way, began seeing it as instruction rather than warning. The documentary closed with Sophia reflecting on forgiveness. She admitted she would never forgive Travis, but had learned to forgive herself for trusting, for missing signs, for wanting to believe. Survival, she said, was not forgiveness, but it was enough. The final text revealed Travis Keller is serving 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. Emma Martinez, Rachel Martinez, and Jessica Huang were laid to rest by their families and are remembered for how they lived. Sophia continues advocacy work, helping prevent dozens of cases of intimate partner violence through education and awareness. Years later, Sophia built a meaningful life in Seattle, eventually entering a healthy relationship rooted in trust. She learned to sleep again, to heal, and to live forward, without forgetting. Her legacy was not surviving a serial killer, but ensuring his victims were never forgotten, never reduced to statistics or footnotes. By telling their stories with dignity, Sophia reclaimed her own humanity and gave theirs back to the world.